Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we talk about all things financial literacy, but today's going to be a little bit of a different type of video because today I'm going to be talking about a story, but also I'm going to be talking about some tips that I want to share when negotiating a car total loss and how I was able to not only get the full value of my vehicle, I was able to get an extra $1,000 on top of that. And it's just a few tips that I think are really easy to keep in mind whenever you're negotiating a total loss. And about a few weeks ago, I want to say about 8 weeks ago, I had a vehicle that was a complete total loss. It caught on fire. So it was, there was no debating on whether or not it was a total loss. And when that happened, I just want to talk about the process and everything I went through when getting that car. That's what actually led to the video I was doing with Navy Federal, where I got approved for the auto loan of $30,000. And, this in that video, I kind of mentioned this like just very quickly. And someone in the comments did ask, how I dealt with that situation. So I thought, why not make a quick video on exactly what happened? And hopefully these tips will help you get the full value of your vehicle, or, maybe even get a little bit more. I actually got a little bit more than what I actually paid for it. So that was a good situation. Now, to begin, I want to talk about what a total loss is. And this is not like a field of expertise for me. This is really just me sharing the details of this situation with you. But a total loss, to put simply, is when a vehicle's cost of repair is equal or greater than 65% of the fair market value of that vehicle before the accident. This can vary by state. What I gave you was the total loss in Nevada. So depending on your state, this may be different. You might want to check that. But I'm assuming if you're watching this video, the adjuster that you have already told you that vehicle is a total loss. So hopefully that's not like a debate thing. We already know exactly what it's going to be. And you already know that this vehicle is done and you're going to get a payout for it. Now, again, this isn't going to be like it's not long. It's very straightforward what I did, but it was 4 things in particular that I thought really, really stood out. Now, the first thing that I did, I asked the adjuster for a claim summary or an adjuster summary. So what that is, it's an estimate of what is expected to be the cost of repair for the damages on your vehicle. So you want to ask for this documentation if you don't receive it. For me, it was not provided to me. My adjuster didn't give it to me up front. I did have to ask for this documentation. He told me that some other company does this, I guess, to get the value for the payout that they give you. So this document, it should contain a report of your vehicle's value based on other vehicles sold in the area. Now, this is what you want to do. It took him a while to actually give me the payout. When he tried to give me the payout, he just told me, give my title to some place and then they would give me a check. He didn't even tell me what the amount was for. So I had to call a few times just to verify, like, well, what's my amount? What am I actually getting, paid? And when he told me, I'm like, no, I'm not taking that. That's way too low. I'm like, that's crazy low. So I asked for this. He didn't give it to me up front. And when I did get it and I looked at it, there were all types of things that I'm like, this isn't even fair, which brings me to my next tip. You want to notify everything that you get from your adjuster in writing. And you also want to be notify them of any discrepancies in writing. You want to make note of where those vehicles have been sold on the summary that he gave me, or vehicles that were in my area. So that doesn't make sense. Like, you're basing this number off of vehicles that aren't even sold in my city or state. I also asked him for the contact information. Like, okay, I want to know who sold these cars. What price did they sell them at? Did the cars have any defects? Like, what was the miles on the vehicle? For all I know, these cars could have had all kinds of underlying issues that caused them to be that low. They could have been rental vehicles. They could have been salvage vehicles. I have no idea. I need to know exactly what the condition was of these cars. So you want to make sure that when they're doing that summary, that the vehicles that they're comparing your vehicle to are actually comparable. It's important that you know all of this. And as you're doing this, make sure that you get notified via email or in writing, whether that be through the app or however. You just want to make sure that there is some way that you can track this exchange between you and your adjuster. I tried to talk as little on the phone after that as possible. Like, I want everything in writing. I want emails. And if I do talk to you, I'm going to have an email with all the points, with what you said, with what I said. And I made sure that you know that this is documented, and I'm going to use it for reference if I need to later. And that's not to be like, not to be rude or anything. I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the fair value for my vehicle. And then you want to follow up on all these communications again in email and in writing, even when I called him back, because after I started getting a little more aggressive with, like getting a better payout, I noticed he kind of pulled back a little bit. So he wasn't talking to me as much. I did notice that. So I did make sure that I put it in writing, like, hey, this is my third time trying to contact you on today's date. I sent 2 emails yesterday, just making sure that everything's good. That way there's a paper trail of how many times I had to reach out to this person and how they were not responding to, any of my, any of these correspondence. Like, they're not talking to me. It's a lack of communication, but then he said he was on vacation. So maybe he's on vacation. The next thing that I want to talk about is creating a comp sheet. Now, this is something that you may or may not have heard about, but you should create like a Google spreadsheet or something of all the vehicles in your area that are being sold, that same make and model. Because before I go back, let me go back to one thing. When I was saying that he didn't actually, like, the discrepancies, he didn't put the right mileage for the vehicle. This vehicle was a fairly older vehicle, but the miles were like less than 50,000. So even though the vehicle was fairly old, the miles were ridiculously low. I had to actually go to the place where I get my oil changes just to show him, this is all the maintenance. This was the miles that they recorded. This car barely had anything on it. So you need to, like, that had to be equated into the value. But, I digress. When you create your comp sheet, it should be the same make, the same model, the same year. And if you can, find vehicles with the exact same mileage as your car. That made a huge difference in the value. That made a huge difference. So when I did that and showed him, I got 20 cars. I remember the night I got that payout, I went, I made a Google spreadsheet of 20 different cars from 20 different dealers for 20 different prices. All of the prices that I got some of them were like way above where my car was, even where I purchased it at. Like, some of them were like 14,000. The car, it was like 10,000 I paid for it plus some interest, but it was like 14,000 they were selling this car for. It was a Toyota. So even now, some of these used cars, the prices have been a little inflated, but it was actually to my benefit instead of my detriment, because since the prices were inflated for this particular car, since it was a Toyota, it's like they're selling it for $15,000 for the same mileage. They were trying to offer me like 6,000. They're selling it for 15,000 with the same mileage. No way. That's never going to happen. So I found similar vehicles. Again, I created a comp sheet. I showed the state that the vehicles were in. They were in Nevada. I showed the price that the vehicles were being sold at. I added a link to each dealership. I added the make, the model, the year, and the miles. So literally you got 20 different comparable models. Then I told him, hey, compare my comp sheet to your claim summary and you tell me what a fair price is, which brings me to my last tip. I never actually gave an actual price. When I provided this documentation, you need to understand that when you're giving this, it's almost like you're providing a testimony. So when you give them this comp, make sure you're happy with that price, because there's a good chance that if you give them a price that you weren't happy with, that might be the ceiling. That might be where it stops. You might be putting yourself into a place where you're capping the price. I never gave a price. I gave you this with cars being sold for $14,000. You gave me 6. They're selling it for 14, 15 for the same miles, same make, same, same model, everything. So if they're selling it for double what you gave me, look at your summary, look at my comps, and you tell me what's a fair price, because this doesn't make sense that we can be like, this can be this different. So, once I provided my documentation, and of course I asked for more information. Again, I still asked him for all of the information that he got from the dealership, from all these different places. And he told me he couldn't provide that information to me because someone else did this. A company that they hired did this comp. Okay, cool. Or did their claim summary. Well, cool. Here's my claim summary of my value for my vehicle. You need to do something about this because I can't take that. Now, to kind of wrap up everything, when I ended up doing this, it took about like 4 or 5 days later, and he came back to me, and the total that I was able to get was around $12,000 for the vehicle. Now, like I said, I paid 10. I showed him comparable prices of 14, 15,000. They came back with 12. So, do with that information what you will, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what exactly happened. And what a lot of things I didn't like about the situation is that I knew that he knew that that wasn't fair. And if I didn't actually give pushback, they would have sent me to go get this payout with like whatever place had the car, give them my title, they give me a check, and I would have gotten, basically half of what they were actually willing to give me. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of some things that you can do in order to make sure that you actually get the full value for your car. So to bring the whole thing full circle, whatever they give you, your report, your claim summary, the adjuster summary, whether they have a company do it or someone else do it, always ask for that sheet. And again, that sheet should be an estimate of the cost of repair, an estimate of the damages, and then it should have the total payout, not the total payout, but the value of your vehicle, but it should be based on comparable vehicles in your area. And you should be able to contact these dealers and contact these people, and you should be able to actually get all this information. And well, if the car that they sold here was 8,000, what was the miles? Did it have any damage? You want all that information. Then you want to notify the adjuster of any discrepancy. Like I said, they didn't take into consideration my vehicle's mileage, which greatly had an effect on the price. Make sure all of that is in there. And if there's any discrepancies, point it out and let them know, like, hey, this wasn't the same as my car at all. Then if you need to, create that comp sheet of vehicles that are being sold in your area. Let them know that you're very aware of the value of your car and what you should be getting. So that way they can't just throw out a number. And also you can't just, I am going to ask for what's fair. I'm not just going to throw out something that I feel. Everything that I say is based in fact and based in information. And I just want to make sure that if you're going to give me something lower than what I think I deserve, we both have factual information to back up what we're saying. So I had facts to back it up. That was my comp sheet. Those were the facts. Again, other dealers were selling it for this price in my area. And then again, I never gave them the price that I wanted. I never said, well, if you could at least give me 10,000. I never said that, because maybe that's what they would have given me. I would have kind of told them exactly what I wanted. I just told them, hey, look at it. What do you think is fair? So with all that being said, this is exactly what I did. You don't have to take what the offer that they give you. You can refuse, and don't just accept anything just because they gave it to you. Go out, do the research, and hopefully based off of fact, you're able to do the same thing that I was able to do, because this greatly affected the next vehicle that I was able to actually get and what I was able to do with the money. I also had another property damage claim for what was lost inside of the vehicle, which was some expensive stuff. So in actuality, with the $6,000 that I was able to get for that, the property damage, and then or it was for personal property, and then the vehicle, I was able to get about $18,000 really from that vehicle. $18,000 for a vehicle that I paid $10,000 for. So, in actuality, there was a lot of equity that went with that car, and I was able to get all of it back to put towards something new, and to also keep that money so I can leverage it to make more money in the next few months. So it worked out perfectly for me. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions that I can answer, again, I'm not an expert at this. I just did my due diligence in order to make sure that I was being paid fairly. And if you have any questions that I can answer, then I would definitely be more than happy to answer those. This isn't my usual content. I don't know anything about claims, adjustments. I don't have any insider knowledge. I'm just letting you know about my experience, what I did, and this was the outcome. There are variables that can change, your outcome. So I may not be able to account for those variables, but any questions that you have about my personal situation, I would be more than happy to answer for you. Thank you guys so much again for watching this video, and you have a wonderful day.